Water. We take it for granted until it starts to run out. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Melbourne faced the worst drought in its recorded history. What began as a dry spell soon stretched into a long-term climate event. The millennial drought, as it came to be known, lasted more than a decade. It pushed our water supply system to the brink and permanently changed how we plan, engineer, and manage water in Victoria. For generations, Melbourne have relied on a series of mountain catchments, reservoirs, and aqueducts, an elegant gravity-fed network that served a growing city well into the 20th century. But by the late 1990s, it became clear that rainfall patterns were changing, and fast. Between 1996 and 2010, average annual rainfall across southeastern Australia declined sharply. Inflows into Melbourne's reservoirs fell to historic lows. And while total storage capacity was high, thanks to major projects like Thomson and Cardinia, the system overall simply couldn't refill itself the way it had in previous decades. By 2006, total storage volumes dropped below 30%, triggering the most severe water restrictions Melbourne had ever seen. Residential water was rationed. Garden watering, car washing, and even shower times were limited. Enforcement campaigns were rolled out, and fines issued for non-compliance. These measures helped. Water consumption across Melbourne fell by nearly 30% in just a few years, but restrictions alone weren't enough for the long term. With no guarantee of rain, planners and engineers knew they needed to find new, diversified, and also climate-independent water sources, and fast. The first and most controversial of these was the North-South Pipeline. Announced in 2007 and completed by 2010, the pipeline was designed to transfer water from the Goulburn River in northern Victoria directly into Melbourne's network via Sugarloaf Reservoir. In theory, it would allow the state to balance water supply across regions, moving water from wetter climates over the Great Dividing Range to drier ones in emergencies. But the project sparked fierce public opposition. Critics, especially from regional communities, argued that diverting water from irrigated areas would harm farmers and rural towns already under stress. Many saw it as a political response to a long-term climate problem. Protests were widespread, and the project became a symbol of the tension between urban security and regional equity. Although the pipeline was completed and remains operational, today it is only used in specific conditions, when Melbourne storages are low and water availability in the Goulburn system is sufficient. It remains one of Melbourne's most debated water projects. The other major solution came in the form of desalination. Planning for a desalination plant had been under discussion since the early 2000s, but it wasn't until the severity of the drought became undeniable that the project was fast-tracked. The Victorian desalination plant, located near Wonthaggi on the Bass Coast, was officially commissioned in 2012, shortly after the drought had broken. The plant uses reverse osmosis to remove salt and impurities from seawater, producing up to 150 billion litres of potable water annually, roughly a third of Melbourne's total annual demand. Unlike dams and rivers, desalinated water isn't dependent on rainfall, making it climate independent, an essential attribute for an ever-changing environment. While desalination is energy intensive and expensive to build, it provides guaranteed supply in dry years and strengthens system resilience. The arrival of desalination marked a turning point. For the first time, Melbourne had diversified its supply beyond catchments. That diversification wasn't just about new sources, it was also about improving how water could be moved within the system. One of the key drought response projects was the construction of the Preston Pump Station. Built during the height of the millennial drought, at a cost of around $70 million, the pump station enabled a major shift in how Melbourne managed its network. For the first time, treated water from Sugarloaf Reservoir, via the Winnicki treatment plant, could be pumped back up through the system, into the Dandenong Ranges, with the Olinda Reservoir seen to be the receiving point. This effectively reversed the traditional one-way flow from the Yarra Ranges and allowed the eastern network to be reinforced during times of stress. To support this, the Winnicke Water Treatment Plant was also upgraded during the drought to boost its treatment capacity and throughput, critical given it would now be responsible for processing increased flows from the Birrarung and Maroondah Reservoir via the Urine Gorge pumping station, but also water from the north-south pipeline when it was in use. These enhancements ensured that Winnicke could handle both routine demand and emergency transfers, strengthening the city's overall water resilience. But the millennial drought didn't just inspire large infrastructure, it reshaped the entire way we think about water. It made conservation permanent and pushed innovation into stormwater reuse, recycled water, and integrated water management. Melbourne Water and local water authorities began investigating the implementation of smart water metering, leak detection, and demand management tools that would allow real-time monitoring of usage and losses. Public education campaigns embedded water conservation into household behaviour. The cultural mindset shifted from entitlement to stewardship. Today, Melbourne's water supply is defined by 4 core pillars. Surface water from protected catchments, desalinated water from the Wonthaggi plant, conservation and demand management, alternative sources, including stormwater harvesting and recycled water. This integrated model makes Melbourne one of the most water resilient cities in Australia, but the challenges around water security haven't stopped there. Climate projections show that southeastern Australia is likely to become hotter and drier, with more frequent extreme weather events into the future. Rainfall frequency may decline, but when it does fall, it's likely to come in short, intense bursts, too fast to capture and often lost as runoff. As engineers and planners, we now face the challenge of managing stormwater, not just as a nuisance, but as an underutilised resource. Urban environments must evolve, from hard drainage systems to sponge-like landscapes that absorb, store, and reuse water where it falls. We'll explore that shift in our next episode. But for now, the millennial drought stands as both a warning and a blueprint. It shows what happens when we ignore variability, and what we're capable of when we respond with urgency and innovation. It also reminded us that water security isn't just about engineering. It's about trust, transparency, and long-term planning. I'm Paul Michael Angus. Thank you for watching.